Welcome to the Fat Fueled Family Podcast, where every week we talk about things like nutrition, training,
how to live a healthy and active lifestyle with your little ones, peaceful parenting, education,
and of course, mindset.
Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Keto Counterculture, at Fat Fueled Mom, and at Fat Fueled Kids, and search for Fat Fueled Family on YouTube.
To stay up to date with everything we're doing, sign up with your email at www.fatfueled.family and check out our blog for workouts, meal ideas, and all the other cool stuff we love to talk about.
Don't forget to hit subscribe.
All right, welcome to the Fat Fueled Family Podcast. I'm Danny Vega, and I'm joined today by my beautiful wife, Maura Vega.
Thank you.
Because she's sick of me stopping and letting her say her name, so I said it for her.
Thank you.
We have an awesome guest today. He has a website and as well as a Facebook group that's basically like, you know, I'm copying Fahad because he said it perfectly. It's like a gladiator arena where people just all like are going at each other, and for some reason they keep coming back for pain and more pain. And a lot of people they're not into that, but I'm just like, this is fantastic. This is what science is all about. I wanted to give a quick introduction about him. He's an engineer with an interest in nutrition, and obviously he's always looking at things numerically. He has this nutrient optimizer, which is awesome. I actually filled it out for myself. His wife is type 1 diabetic, and he has a family history of type 2 diabetes and obesity. So his a lot of what he looks at is within the scope of that. So he's very interested in type 1 and type 2 diabetic. He's refined their diet to prioritize low insulinogenic, nutrient dense foods, which is something he really talks about all the time. And he's been able to achieve improved blood sugar control and increased energy, reduced depression and anxiety that so often comes with the blood sugar dysregulation. He has, like I said, he has a really cool website and Facebook group called, is it Optimizing Nutrition or Optimized Nutrition? I think it's Optimizing.
Optimizing, yeah.
And remember that if you're, stateside, it's not a Z, it's Optimizing with an S. So if you want to join that and you want to just go in there and just be a fly on the wall and just start collecting papers, because these people are always posting papers. So you can like literally just, if you have a paper to write, you want to get, you want to do something for grad school, just search, because there's some juicy topics. So without further ado, we want to welcome to the show Marty Kendall. Say what's up, man.
Hey, great to be here from the future. Believe I'm back.
Oh, and that's the best part, because he is in Australia and his name is Marty. So
and he's in the future.
He's literally
how much
like
better can I get right now?
Dude.
My dream. Back to the future. This is great.
Cool. Anyway, moving on. Great to be here, guys. Really cool.
Awesome.
So I wanted to first ask you, where in Australia are you? Because that is such a huge continent and country. Where in Australia are you?
I'm in Brisbane, which is on the eastern side. So yeah, about halfway up in the middle on the eastern side.
There's something really interesting that my top 5 cities, Brisbane is number 5 for my followers. So like that's my 5th. I don't know what's going on in Brisbane, but I mean they have a penchant for Cuban accents, maybe, and so they're following me.
They'll have to pop around and visit. I'll have to meet them.
Oh well, I would love to go there. I mean, but I also have friends in Adelaide, so it's like, where the heck do I go? Like that is just. It's like I need 3 months.
Yeah, we need 3 months.
It's a pretty cool place.
Okay.
Great place to be.
It really is, man. I mean, it's always trying to kill you, but I guess that makes you stronger.
And through the magic of technology, we can have a chat with anybody all over the place. It's very cool.
We love that, man. So I guess we'll get started. You want me to ask first, my love, our first question that we always like to ask?
Sure.
So I'll ask, so what is the most critical problem that you're currently trying to solve?
Yeah, wow. Big question out of the gate. I suppose the thing that consumes me each day is just like living life as a human with a family. And I suppose I listen to you guys, you hear you guys talk about act locally, lead by example, try to live the life that you want others to follow. And I'm trying to put all this stuff into practice. And as you mentioned, personal journey and trying to not be sick and diabetic and overweight, and like yourself, trying to lift and get fit. And I suppose a lot of this is driven by managing my wife's diabetes and trying to optimize that. And that's a daily journey, and going, what the hell do we buy in the shops? It's all full of junk. And then with the kids, trying to help them live a good life, and from that learning, then implement that in the big wide world. So yeah, as you mentioned, we've got that optimizing nutrition group, which is like the hive mind of nutrition, with all these really smart people who are willing to share their research studies. And it's a great way to research. I want to write a blog post to like ask a teasing question and get a million arguments and counter arguments and papers to go, okay, I've research done, tick, and go write the article. But I'm also trying to implement all that theory in a systematized manner that helps people go, yeah, that's what I have to do. I know what I have to do today and then tomorrow, and build those habits into the nutrient optimizer. We've also got a nutrient optimizer Facebook group, which is sort of more of a hand-holding community that will help support people to contrast and complement that gladiatorial hive mind of optimizing nutrition that's nearly 10,000 people. So yeah, and during the day, occasionally I try to get to work to pay the bills as an engineer, which is becoming one of the many things I do these days with this hobby that's getting a bit out of control. So yeah.
Well, first of all, if you like being an engineer, totally cool. But if you like this thing that you're doing, I'm going to make it my personal mission to bug the crap out of you until you're just like, all right, fine, I quit. I'm going to do this for a living. Because this is like, misery loves company. I'm here. I'm homeless. I'm homeless. I quit my job in September. So, I just want everybody to be with me. Yeah. But it's not that scary. It's not bad.
Yeah. Maybe the nutrient optimizer, we're trying to get it to the point where it'll scale and help a lot of people. And then it becomes financially viable to, we'll see what happens. So.
Well, I hope it does, because I think one of the reasons why you have people arguing for paleo, keto, high carb, low carb, and all these things is because everyone wants the one thing. Everyone wants to simplify nutrition. Yeah. And I think the nutrient optimizer, first of all, taking into account all of the individual variables of that person, but also as it continues to grow, I think it'll be really good because, we're all different, and we're seeing that it doesn't come down as easy as, well, you're fine. 75% fat, 25% protein, or 20% protein and 5% carbs. And see you later. You're now healed. Go forth.
Yes.
Yeah, I find it, what I find fascinating as an engineer and someone who thinks in terms of systems, I think, wow, you get these vegans who are zealously passionate about their diet that's healed them, and then you've got the ketonians that have the same passion and have the same sort of healing journey, and you're going, well, what is similar about these people? And at the same time, you've got people falling off the wagon and not working for them. You're saying, okay, what are the commonalities between the things that work and the things that don't work? And often it's that it's that central thing of, eat real food that has nutrients that, and I suppose with the whole satiety thing recently, what I've found amazing is that, that it's the combination of fat and carbs together. It's not necessarily carbs per se or plant-based foods per se. It's that combination of, you take a potato and add vegetable oil and you get this potato chip that would never occur in nature, and we just can't get enough of it because, it's this freakish food that fills both our fat and our glycogen, our carbohydrate stores at the same time without hitting protein satiety. And, we can't get enough of it. So that seems to be the commonality a lot of the time with nutrient poor foods, that, people just can't stop eating those foods and end up sick and obese and in a lot of problems. So that seems to be the commonality a lot of the time. And it's really exciting to be able to find that, systematize it, and say, well, here are the foods that will reverse engineer that and help you out of that hole.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like, the fact that I think we can all agree on that. I think vegans would agree with it. I think everybody would agree with it. Like, we shouldn't combine, even the people, like, I'm okay with saturated fat, but you throw it in with like you said, vegetable oils and or starches, and it becomes like a weaponized, health killer. It's like,
yeah, totally. And what I've been saying recently and trying to put into my own practice in my own family, and it's really hard, is don't buy anything from the shop. Don't, the cookie jar at work, don't eat anything, don't consume anything that's some combination of processed starches, processed flour, and vegetable oil together. And just looking at the analysis that we did of MyFitnessPal data, looking at what tended to drive people to overeat, it's that unnatural combination of starch and vegetable oil together that just, we don't have an off switch. We can't shut down an appetite for that. And once we start, we're just, once we pop, we just can't stop, and we keep on going till it's gone. Whereas if you eat whole food, whether it be, celery or broccoli or, watercress or whatever ridiculous things up that end, or potatoes have a very high satiety value, or whole steak or salmon or whole foods down the other end. Neither of those can you overeat. You eat enough, you get enough nutrients, and you go, okay, I'm done.
That makes perfect sense. And I'm always talking about how, that's why you're still hungry. And that's why those foods are meant to be that way. There's those companies are, those companies are immoral.
About like, oh, not right. Keep
oh yeah, that's what I was gonna. Yeah, like, we're eating these foods that are meant to be addicting, and they're meant for you to want more because your body is not getting the micronutrients it needs, and it's like, nope, try again, try again, and it's just like, which brings me to my question, which is about protein. There's a lot of controversy, especially in the ketogenic community. And I know I heard you talk about this on Keto Geek, but we've got to talk about it here. About protein, and we even got a little scared in the beginning.
Well, at first we weren't scared. We just were like,
they kind of scare you a little. And
I wasn't scared. I was like, I'm a contrarian. So when I heard people, I was like, well, you don't need protein. Look at me. And then I was like, but wait, that's not optimal, because over time I was like, I felt better with higher protein.
Yeah. And over time, as we, grew and experimented with our own bodies, I did feel way better, especially with the amount of exercise that we do, eating higher protein. And then there's this word that everyone loves to throw around, gluconeogenesis, that I don't really think that they know what it really means, or like the amount of energy that is expended. Can you kind of explain like these, how gluconeogenesis works and like the myths around this? Because, people are like, oh, if you eat too much protein, that's it. It's high fructose corn syrup. It's sugar.
Yeah.
That's it. You're done. You're out of keto.
Definitely an interesting and complex and controversial topic in the keto scene. And I suppose when I first started delving into it, I found the Insulin Index, which helps us understand which foods need more insulin, which foods need less insulin. And for my wife, I was thinking, okay, if I can find foods that need less insulin, then that'll help her stabilize her blood sugars, because, if she has to dose a lot of insulin, then she's on a blood sugar roller coaster, rah. So we're trying to minimize that. But then once you get right at the other end, you get to these, bacon, macadamia nuts, avocado, and butter and oil. And when you get right up that extreme, you go, well, it's not necessarily going to be nutrient dense. So I tried to find the balance between nutrients and that insulin load, which I think is sort of the dream for people with diabetes, is to find the point where they still get nutrients, but they reduce the insulin load to the point that they stabilize the blood sugars. But when it comes to protein, it is really complex, because, when I look at the protein does require more insulin, but in a type 1 diabetic, they're metabolizing the protein, and they need insulin to turn that protein into muscle and repair their body. So they need the protein and the insulin. So you need the insulin to do that job. And at the same time, you need insulin to slow the release of glycogen from your liver into your bloodstream. So that it's not the protein turning to just leaching directly out into your bloodstream. It's the stored glycogen being released because you really don't have enough insulin being released into your bloodstream. So really, someone with type 1 diabetes needs to both have enough insulin to metabolize the protein they're eating to turn it into muscle, which is obviously critical in their body, as well as keeping the liver shut off so it doesn't release glucose into the bloodstream and they get elevated blood sugars. So yeah, and that's really important. And then the more I've delved into the whole satiety thing, protein is definitely a significant factor, one of the many factors that positively influence our satiety. So if we're trying to avoid protein, we end up with, the ultimate low satiety food is that energy dense fat plus carbohydrate foods. Think about, cookie, lasagna, cracker. Those sort of foods are very low protein plus fat and carbs. But if you get very, very high fat that's separated from protein, you tend to have a fairly low satiety outcome as well. You can eat a lot more calories of bulletproof coffee or fat bombs flavored with, stevia or whatever you like to add to it than you can salmon or lean steak or kangaroo or whatever it is that, calorie for calorie, a higher protein food is going to be more satiating. So yeah, it's very interesting and complex, but I think, you definitely, but it ends up being hard to eat too much protein for most people. The body gets to a point where there's really a point where you need enough protein to do the work you need to do in your body to repair your muscles and et cetera, et cetera. But there's only about 500 calories worth of storage protein in your bloodstream in labile protein stores. So it gets to the point where your body says, okay, that's full. I've got enough. Can you please stop giving me protein? Because to convert that excess protein into glucose, you lose about 25% of the energy from the glucose, the protein to turn it into glucose. So your body really doesn't want to do that. And it says, well, give me some fat or carbs because that's much easier to turn into energy. So really, once you get to the point where your protein stores are full, you've repaired your muscles and your blood glucose stores are full of, enough protein, the body really switches off its appetite and says, no, I don't want any more because I can't do anything with it easily. If I've got nothing else to eat, I'll turn that into glucose if I have to survive, but it won't do it by default at a point where it just leaches into the bloodstream. Type 1 diabetics are, a bit of a special case and you need to calculate the insulin a bit more accurately. But for most people, it's, I think excess protein is not a thing just because of the satiety effect that makes it very hard to overeat the protein.
Yeah, and I want to circle back to satiety, but before we go there, I want to go a little bit, dig in a little bit more because I think this is really going to help people because we have been preaching this for a long time now about this protein because, you got people with, we always say like they got hair falling out, they're losing muscle, they're not. And, we're meatheads. So, for me to lose muscle, that's not good, and plus like if I don't eat enough protein at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm not sated. And I also feel like my body's like, you need some more meat,
Yeah,
but
totally. And if you don't get that protein, you keep on eating, and that's what. We did this analysis with 500,000 days of MyFitnessPal data, and found that if you prioritize protein in the morning, the more protein you eat in the morning, the less you'll eat across the day. But if you try to restrict protein, you end up there with the bag of chips and the cookies and those comfort cheat foods. Just going, I'm so hungry. For me, it was always the cream and the peanut butter that I thought. It's high fat, it's low insulin, therefore I'll lose weight. And I'm going, well, look at it in the mirror, look at it on the scales. It's not working out.
Yeah, like you cannot deny, you can't deny it. Yeah. And that's the thing. And then oh my gosh, there's so many good topics here, man, because you're restricting the protein in the morning because you think that you have to fast because you think that's going to help. And I'm the guy who's like, and Mato's going to ask about this fasting thing later, but, for me, like why are you fasting? Ask yourself that, like, and people, they don't do that. And with the protein thing, I think what is going to be, because we have an obsession, which is, I don't see this as a bad thing to test your blood sugar in the morning. What I just see is that there's a lot of confusion. And so, like, someone, even myself, like when I started eating a lot more meat, like I was eating, my first year of keto was basically anywhere from and at some points even as low as 75 grams a day, and I was like anywhere from 120 to 160 grams of protein a day at 225 pounds. You could do it, but when I added the protein, my body said, this is awesome, like this is good. But my morning numbers were a little bit higher, and okay, we already know now, that, and I would agree with you that this is not new glucose. This is possibly like a glycogen dump. This is, and so how could the people that are testing in the morning and they're seeing these higher glucose numbers, how do we make them feel better about them? Because to me, like, if you're in the normal range and you were at 75 and is pretty low. Wow. So that's, right around 4, whatever that is, 4.0, look at me. I'm being considerate of you. That's right around, because you guys are in millimoles and we're in
we're like the only ones though that use.
Yeah, but I always put my blood sugar in milligrams per deciliter and millimoles, just to be good to all of my people in the UK and and everywhere else. And so, like, they, if you're at 75, you don't get a prize for having super low blood sugar. And if if it went up to like 85, how do we help them understand that that's not a terrible thing, and that they're not going back down this path of insulin resistance or or uncontrolled blood sugars?
Yeah. Oh wow. Another fantastic rabbit hole. I suppose I went to low carb conference on the Gold Coast recently, and there are a few people there testing their blood sugars, and they're going, okay, I'm wearing a CGM because I want to control my insulin and want to avoid anything that raises my blood sugar at all. So that they're basically using that to avoid all carbohydrate and possibly protein, and end up eating a lot of more refined fat and not necessarily seeming to benefit from it in an appearance or weight and, perspective. And it doesn't necessarily help them to completely flatline blood sugars. And a normal healthy person eating a whole food meal is not necessarily going to have completely flatline blood sugars. And like, I'm a massive advocate for measuring blood sugars, and that's a really useful indicator. And a blood sugar of closer to, Bernstein talks about 83 or 4.6 in millimoles. But I mean, waking up with anything under 100 or maybe whatever that is in Australian, but 5.6 or whatever.
5.2. 5.6. Yeah.
Waking up with anything less than that is going to be okay. But you can use it as an indication of maybe you need to stop eating as late at night, like a morning higher blood sugar. We can use that as a factor and go, okay, my blood sugar. So I often measure my blood sugar, and if it's over 5 in the morning, I thought, I maybe shouldn't have eaten so much last night, or I need to cut that back. And that can be a really useful indicator of food timing and intermittent fasting, but not necessarily to not eat during the morning, but potentially to say, well, I'm going to move my last meal back to 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock or 2 o'clock or whatever you can possibly do reasonably, and eat earlier in the day. And looking at sleep and circadian rhythms and all these sort of things more recently, it seems that not eating later in the day is a really helpful thing to optimize your insulin resistance and all those sort of things. And you seem to be primed for fat storage if you eat a lot more later in the day. So
I love that one study.
Go on.
Oh, I was saying that one study that they fed people the same meal at in early in the morning and then later in the afternoon, and you see a significant difference in what it does to their blood sugar. I'm not sure if it measured insulin or if they were looking at insulin, but I know that blood sugar at least was significantly increased by more in the evening, and it speaks to what you're saying, that you know, we're diurnal creatures. We're made to eat in the day and sleep at night. So it is, you know, that's a really good one, because people are like literally having a fat bomb and going right to bed. I mean, you know, that could be a problem.
Yeah, and like I think maybe a caveman was optimized, didn't have a lot of food, and might have eaten late at night because that might have had the insulin sensitivity is different, and you store fat more easily. You're not going to use it. You make sure you pack it away. But if you eat earlier in the morning, ideally protein, which is more satiety, it provides more satiety across the day. You're going to start the day. You're going to tell your body, okay, time to get up, time to get started. And you're probably going to use that fuel and build it for muscle over the day.
Okay, well, then that brings me to, okay, so what do you think about then about intermittent fasting?
Yep.
Usually it's done in the morning. You think that would affect, like, should someone who's exercising mid-morning, like, eat the protein earlier in the morning? Like, how important is the nutrient timing, do you think?
Yeah, I think intermittent fasting, like one of my posts recommends using blood sugar as a bit of an indication. So you can say, okay, my blood sugar was over, what's my average for the last 7 days? Maybe it's 5.6 or 5.4 or whatever it is. You can say, okay, it's greater than usual. I'm going to try and eat less tomorrow. And you can do that by going, okay, I'm going to skip dinner. I can skip breakfast, but ideally skipping the dinner does seem to be better, and definitely prioritizing your meal around your workout seems to be better, and exercising completely fasted isn't going to be optimal for building muscle if you don't have any protein circulating in your bloodstream from recently eating any. If you feel really starving, hungry, and you're thrashing your body to work out, you're not going to optimize your muscle building. It's probably going to be more catabolic and breaking down your muscle if you're going to be exercising fasted, which, you know, I don't know what your goal is, depending on what your goal is. If you're really trying to trigger autophagy, but, you know, if you maintain an energy deficit over the long term and you're losing weight, then you're going to be, you know, it's going to be a good thing overall for your insulin sensitivity.
Yeah, and Maura was commenting earlier today that lately she's been eating earlier in the day, and she's been feeling better, you know. And I think, like, it's crazy because she'll eat earlier in the day, and
I work out. I work out mid-morning, and I train really hard, you know.
But you're not hungry. That's the thing.
That's the thing. It's hard for me because I'm not hungry. I truly have to, like, force the protein sometimes in the morning, but I do feel better throughout the day. It's true.
Yeah,
but that's probably just because I've done this for so long.
Yeah, and you have to change your habits. It takes a while to do that shift. You say, okay, I feel better. I'm not hungry in the morning, but that depends on when you usually eat. You get into that circadian rhythm of hunger. Interestingly, I recently ordered the Oura ring, and looking forward to that. Haven't got it. I don't know how long it'll take to come, but been hanging.
Oh man, me too. I'm in that waiting. Oh man, me too. I'm waiting. We're both waiting.
But you see, all the people, I did a little survey on the Oura Ring users group and said, what helps you with your sleep? And so many of them said not eating too late in the day, not drinking alcohol late in the day. And there was a bunch of other nutrients like magnesium and glycine that helped, but it was definitely not eating too late. And I just finished listening to Matthew Walker's Why We Sleep, which is a completely fascinating rabbit hole. But yeah, eating earlier in the day and not going to bed too full seems to be really critical. So you're not digesting your food overnight and not getting into your REM sleep overnight.
I forgot what I answered on that one, because I participated in that one, and I answered like a few things, and there was some actually hilarious answers. I think one of them was possibly like sex, which I'm like, I think that one needs to win, because I think people should probably. I mean, I could benefit from my sex ed.
What kind of survey says?
I mean, come on, these are professionals. This is.
He's gonna, like, bring
he's an engineer. Studies. All right, so
he's gonna bring me the studies later. Like, hey, the studies are in.
Oh, that's great.
I don't know where you want to take that one.
So, well, now I'm just gonna do what a lot of scientists do, and I'm gonna search for the answer that that supports my hypothesis. Oh man. Okay, man. I have next to me one of the most I don't know if you know this, but I have one of the most vehement carnivore activists in the world.
What?
I mean, because she is like she's had, and I love carnivore too, but she is, you know, my wife has experienced really the best health. She feels the best she's ever felt with carnivore. You know, she feels so good with it, and you know, there's people are trying to make sense of it. You know, you see people saying, well, this is probably why it works, and this is probably why it works. So, you know, what do you think is possibly lacking with these diets? What are things that people should try to address? And because there's these people that are living this lifestyle, there's some of the healthiest looking people. They seem to be reverse aging. They don't look like they're lacking anything. So what do you think are the explanations, and what are the possible things that they should look to address? You know, any things that, because I know a lot of the deficiencies, just like with a vegan diet, they would appear over time. So how do we address that, and what do you make of this?
I suppose wow, complex topic and interesting topic. I'm just going to dig up my first to look at the little the chart. You know, I did a long, because I was challenged with a sensitive question, and did a long article on carnivore and the benefits and maybe some of the possible shortcomings. And I suppose what is really beneficial is that it cuts out, like you look at what most of us are eating and what's really boomed and increased in the diet over the last 50 years is like I mentioned before, really the processed flours and the vegetable oils. Vegetable oil since about 1910, when we worked out how to extract oil from soybeans and wheat, has just, you know, boomed. They went, this is really cheap fuel. People love it. People love to eat it. We'll tell them it's healthy and jam it in everything. And it's really, you know, really easy to make money out of these cheap vegetable oils. And then you put refined flours with them, and you know, but that's the combination that everybody who's on a carnivore diet cuts out. I mean, the calories from vegetables is probably like 5% or so, but you know, and people might be missing out on those. But what they're cutting out and going to be benefiting from is eliminating all those really crap, nutrient poor, hyperpalatable foods that you don't have an off switch for, that are probably going to trigger a lot of inflammation and autoimmune issues. And really, carnivore, you get heaps of protein, plenty of good fat, saturated fat. I don't have a concern with saturated fat in from whole food. And they're getting heaps of protein, which is really satiating, and cutting out all the hyperpalatable low satiety foods. So that there's a lot of really good things going for it, and that's where you can see it doing really well. At the same time, you listen to heard the Sean Baker podcast with Paleo Medicina, and even they were talking about the benefits of organ meats, and people who are not eating the organ meats and seafood are potentially not getting some of those key minerals like potassium and magnesium and calcium and omega-3. And I think if you're eating purely meat that's fed on grains, and if you look at those grains, they're very nutrient poor. Over the last 50 years, they've really plummeted in those key nutrients because they've continued to be harvested in the same soils. They've really dropped in magnesium and calcium, and sodium is probably the biggest one. There's really no minerals left in the soils that we're growing our grains in. Then we feed it to the cattle, and you're going to get the same nutrient deficiencies eating that food as you would if you're eating the processed grains to some extent, although you're not going to get quite as many inflammatory things. So, yeah, definitely pros and cons, and I suppose that there's a lot of success stories and a lot of not so successful stories, and even the people who are the recognized gurus in it, the Paleo Medicina people, are saying, you do still need to prioritize those harder to find nutrients.
Absolutely. And even, I did do carnivore as kind of like I don't want to say detox. What am I saying? Like an elimination diet.
Yeah.
But I actually did. But I actually did have to start incorporating some, carb ups. And by carb up, I mean, whole food, like sweet potatoes or some apples, things that I do well with around my cycle, especially because my hormones were actually taking a little bit of a hit, to be honest. And so I actually have been feeling better, making protein the priority, and then eating, I really also enjoy like some fermented cabbage and things like that. Some avocados, we love those. And some peely nuts, those are high in manganese and all those minerals.
If
but
cut out,
I think it is individual though.
Yeah, if you start with that elimination diet and then start adding things back, if you've got an autoimmune flare issue, then adding things back in that are autoimmune friendly, I think, is a good way to go, and prioritizing that. And I think the nutrient optimizer sort of approach can help people go, okay, what am I not getting from my current carnivore diet, and which animal-based foods might be able to help me, but also maybe if I'm not, if I'm okay with eating plant-based foods, which selected plant-based foods can help me. And to be honest, I eat a lot of kangaroo at the moment because, I do that and I'm not hungry, and people go, what are you doing? I went, well, I don't know, I started eating kangaroo again. And people go, but you look really different. You go, oh, okay, thanks. But and that's what I eat a lot of the time, but I'll also prioritize, some spinach and some mackerel and some anchovies sometimes. And to be honest, we don't eat a lot of organ meats, liver, kidney. Sometimes I do, but the family don't love it. But
yeah, I'm not a fan of kidney either.
Yeah.
It just, it reminds me of a certain, bodily waste. So I'm just like, just reality. I could do liver though. I could do liver.
Yeah, but the anchovies and oysters and the crustacean type animals are really nutrient dense. Or if you don't like them, then the green leafy vegetables, the spinach, the broccoli, and those sort of things give you those sort of magnesium, potassium, calcium minerals that are really, really, really hard to find in our diet overall, that we all need to be prioritizing in some way, I think. So yeah, definitely people start carnivore, get amazing results because they're eliminating the autoimmune triggers, which are really prevalent in our environment at the moment, which is really sad, living with a type 1 diabetic, and my kids have some, autoimmune issues as well and extra sensitivities. But to eliminate those foods and then slowly add things back, I think is a really good way to do it by prioritizing the nutrients you're not getting enough of.
Hey everybody, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to let you guys know about a company we've been a fan of for over a year now. This is a really cool company because number one, they're convenient. They make some delicious products, and they were also so cool when Dean had the accident. They said this is a great care package. The boys love their products. We love their products. They're convenient, and that's Real Good Foods. Real Good Foods has chicken crust pizzas, cauliflower pizzas. They have these awesome enchiladas that the boys love. Good products, low carb, keto friendly. And if you see the comparison compared to actual other packaged foods, there's no comparison. So they have a store locator. They're available at places like Walmart and supermarkets. I've also seen them even at Vitamin Shop, which is pretty cool. And if you wanted to shop for them locally, you can look at the store locator online. But we have a code, and it's FatFueledFam, and that'll give you $10 off your order. So if you're in a time pinch and you don't have time to cook yourself a nice home cooked meal, definitely look into Real Good Foods. They get the Fat Fueled Family seal of approval. And without any further ado, back to our show.
You mentioned the soil, and that's something that we've kind of been, digging into, and like the fact that our soil quality has gone significantly down in general. I know it definitely affects the grains, but would you say that it's also affecting like other produce? Do you think like
like I said, anything
as nutrient dense?
You are what you ate, whether that be plant-based or animal-based. And if you're not getting, if the animals, animals are being raised in CAFO feedlots and, being jammed with a whole lot of hormones and not seeing any sun and eating a lot of grains which are grown in soils that are mineral depleted, you're not going to get the healthiest, best foods. And that's where, I think the kangaroo is really amazing for me. I discovered it about 6 months ago and, really enjoyed the taste and then dug into the nutrient profile and went, wow, this is really, really amazing, because you got the wild animal that's jumping around in the sun and, eating grass and it's natural food. And then, it's a pest in Australia, so it gets shot and then it ends up, in my supermarket and on my plate. Well. And it is sad. Like I understand the argument for, the vegans sort of run the ethical, would you eat your pet? But at the same time, you look at, Leah Keith and the vegetarian myth. There's no way
we love that book.
It blows my mind every time I hear a podcast. I haven't read the book, but I love her podcasts, and just you can't live in this world without affecting something else negatively. And it's a real motivation. And she uses it to say, well, live a good life, live a life that's worth living, because your life displaces other life in the world. So,
yeah.
I love that thought. That's, and it's, I think something that anyone who, for both sides, the vegans should definitely read it. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt them more for sure. It's going to be closer to home, but she talks in a way that is like, look, I did this for 20 years and, I had to battle like the obvious decline in health. I had to battle, she's like trying to grow organic vegetables without, like using proper, things that would help the plants grow, that are made out of bone and blood. And she's like, okay, what's my alternative? Well, now I got to go to the store and get chemicals, So, it's all of these things that, we can't just put our head in the sand. Like I just shot my first deer this weekend, and it was a beautiful thing to connect with my food like that. I'm grateful to it. I shot it in the heart. There was still grass in its mouth. Wow. It went straight down. It did not suffer. And, people are like commenting, because my dad is like, my dad's grew up in like in Cuba, like we call them guajiros. It's like the Cuban version of like a cowboy. Yeah. Or like an outdoorsman. Yeah. And so my dad is like, I'm proud of my son for doing this, and but then there's people like, that's poor thing, and I'm like, what do you think? You all are not vegans. You are all eating meat. You're going to the store. It's like putting your head in the sand. You're not accepting the world that we live in. Leah Keith says this, we all kill each other and we all eat each other. We're just taking turns because when we die, we enrich the soil. And the circle of life continues. And if you see it that way, it's a beautiful thing, but you have to accept it. You have to. And I think there's nothing better to me than doing it yourself, so that you can truly see you have control over the way that animal is going to go, and I shot that thing. Like I said, it was 1 second to the next, it was lights out. And so, you have a beautiful life, and then at the end of the day that you go, as the deer went, that was that. But it's just the alternative is also, in the wild, a lot of the times being eaten alive. And I'll tell you, I kind of prefer just go ahead and take me out.
Yeah, animals shoot me in the heart or shoot me in the head. Each other alive, which
like
is
you're
worse.
literally it's literally a horror scene.
Yeah,
like, like they're eating you while you're still alive. I can't think of a much worse way to go.
Yeah. It's definitely really confronting, but it really, like Keith says, you've got to make sure you live a life that's worth living, and it gives you, once you deal with that reality and appreciate it, okay, I need to have some impact on animals not living, or give them the best life they can, make sure that they eat the foods they naturally should be eating, support that sort of agriculture, and with your dollar, with your vote, and make sure you live the life you can. And I was just triggered me to think of, I was chatting with a friend of mine, Mike Julian, a group during the week, and he said, that the current food system and the food pyramid is geared to make sure people have enough food to eat, because it was done in the 50s where there wasn't enough food, so we got all this agriculture going, and it's to make sure everybody's got enough calories rather than anything about optimal nutrition or prioritizing micronutrients. And now we've swung to the other end of the spectrum where we've got too many calories and very few nutrients that we need to thrive. And a lot of the time, like I look at my kids and think, okay, they're improving their diet. They're looking great. They're wanting to, we've got a home gym and they're wanting to lift and they look fantastic. And you see these other people in the world that, you go, okay, if, you stopped eating what you're eating, your life and your brain and everything would improve so much more. And, it's just sad and frustrating.
I love that you mentioned your kids because I was actually going to ask about that. We're huge. Segue. We're huge, on proper nutrition for children because most of these crap products are absolutely marketed towards our children.
They get absolutely.
There's cartoons on them. Exactly. They're creating
and Maura says they're basically accidental vegans. I love
and they
that
are. They're
that.
basically accidental vegans because these children are eating goldfish, whatever it is, crackers, just all these empty calories. And they're not, of course, they don't want their protein. And I did hear you talk about, and we talk about this too, about like resetting your palate. And that's something that you have to do with your kids too. So when parents tell me, oh, my son doesn't like meat, I'm like, he's just not hungry enough. Or he just, you need to get rid of that other stuff for a while. And then your child will, their palate, So how do you approach this with your kids? How do you guys do that? Because, there's a lot of different ways. It's a hard balance to not be like controlling and to let them be kids, but also to like educate them and give them a good base.
I suppose you guys talk about lead by example and live the life you want your kids to live, which is probably the most fundamental thing because it takes a while for the kids to get it. But when they see you changing and your life being improved, and okay, I get it. And like now, my son is nearly 13 and daughter's 14 and a half. And, they're at that point where they're hitting puberty. They want to look good. They want to feel good. They want to perform well. They want to play, son wants to play rugby. The daughter, wants to look healthy and get guns like this lady that might be at Christmas or whatever, and they're down there in the gym and they've got their little gym program because they wanted to do it, and we invested in a home gym and they're loving it. So it's really good to see that. But I was thinking before it came on the podcast and just remembering back to my growing son, and when he's got those foods, those hyper palatable, the sausage rolls, you see him at I remember school events where there's all this free food and they go into just about a feeding frenzy. It's amazing to watch.
It's kind of alarming.
It is disturbing. I just sit there as an engineer scientist who's also a parent watching these kids. Just it's fascinating to watch the effect these foods have on them, and from the satiety study looking at it, you look at what foods in our environment that are naturally occurring are that mix of carb and fat together. It's human breast milk and acorns, which help squirrels get fat for winter, and really there's nothing else that is that combination naturally in our environment. But it's basically the signature of foods that come in autumn and lead into winter, and once you eat those foods, you basically give your body a signal to say, hey, winter's coming, you need to eat more, and you go into this hyperphagic feeding frenzy. So you just have one cookie, you say, I'll just have that one cookie, and later on the day you find yourself going, what else can I eat? Where's the peanut butter and yogurt and all these, that's junk food for me, but that's what I binge on. But that's what I find in my own life, and you see it in the kids. And if you try to resist that and don't have that and prioritize those good foods, you tend to not have those cravings because you're not telling that your body that winter's coming and you need to binge more. It seems to reset your set point to a higher point where your body says, I need to maintain more fat so I can get through the winter that you're telling me with your food choices is coming. So that blows my mind. And it's like, okay, I think this is really important. I've got to get it out there. I've got to systematize it to the point that I can share. But back to the kids. I mean, we took Mikey to the doctor for a checkup yesterday, and he's on the doctor went, wow, you're really tall, and let's measure you. And he was literally at the 99th percentile height for his age. And, these kids are thriving because they're getting enough meat, enough real food. They're not eating crap, and they're not getting, my daughter's not getting the gut pains and depression. And when she was 4, she was eating, but as we were, just starting to understand this stuff, she was an angry, depressed kid to a point. But no, we've taken
how long ago was that?
When she was 4.
That was probably 10 years ago.
Okay.
So, yeah. Okay. But looking back then, but she's definitely got some autoimmune issues, and if she eats those gluten type foods, it seems to mess with the gut, and she'll feel really bad. And the son, if he has anything with food colorings, he'll become a different kid and make really bad decisions.
Oh man, the Reds. My 7-year-old used to. Oh yeah, my 7-year-old, if he would eat the Reds when he was younger, it was he would turn into I don't know.
Well,
like
my little one the other day, when we went to go pick up some stuff from the car, and these people, they're well-meaning. They think they're doing you a favor or something. They're like, oh, look, the Kona ice person is there. And they make those little ice cones, but they're basically just like food dyes and high fructose corn syrup. And I'm like, you guys can maybe share one, because they were literally because I see their faces and I don't want to
I would have offered an alternative.
I know, but we were there for a while. But anyways.
But Mauda's more concerned also with giving our kids eating issues, so she's the one who brings me back, because I'm like, no. I know, but I figure it's like a drop in the bucket, and then it gives them also an opportunity to feel it, because since they don't have it all the time, they feel it. They were complaining. Totally. My little one, it's true, he turns into it really affects his behavior. It's incredible how much it affects them. It's crazy.
Yeah, and you can sit there and reflect on that with them and go, hey, you really, how did that affect you? How did you feel? And we're okay. Doesn't help me look the way I want to look. It doesn't help me to feel the way I want to look. I want to think clearly. I want to not be depressed. And depression is a real issue for even kids. And and personally, I want to think clearly. That's what I value, and I don't want to be 70 and losing my mind and fall over and break my hip or not be able to wipe my own bum. I want to thrive. I want to live a long life where I'm independent and can think clearly and not get Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And I now realize that nutrition and being active is completely central to that.
So I love the satiety question, and it's one of those where people who are looking into it, I know Fahad has looked into it as well, and I know you're interested in it, and I'm always interested in it as well, because there's many ways, many mechanisms by which we experience it, because we have the mechanical stretch of the stomach, and we have our ghrelin and our leptin and our other hunger and satiety hormones, and then we have the our nutrient stat, our thermostat that tells us, the one that Mata was talking about, nope, you're not hitting it. And the reason why I'm so interested is because for so many years since high school, I was eating past satiety so that I could, put on muscle, and that of course that can screw things up. So, I'll give you an example. I can eat, 2 pounds of muscle meat without blinking. And then if you give me 12 ounces of liver, I'm busting at the seams, and I think that, I first would like for you to, mention beyond just a combination of the fats and the starches that we know doesn't lead to satiety. But I wonder if you've found a way, because I do know that of course those combinations, but it's hard with MyFitnessPal to really tell when someone's having a sweetener, for instance, and whether it's counted as a carb or not counted as a carb. Sometimes, a lot of times it's not. And, that's not something that necessarily is increasing blood sugar, but, it may be doing things to insulin. So have you seen anything because I'm thinking about a fat bomb or a keto product, because we're getting replete with these junk food products that are replete with, like sweeteners and fat. I wonder, have you found anything on that? Like, sweeteners and fat acting as a sugar and fat.
Yeah. Wow. I don't think it's necessarily just the insulin that's affecting it. I think if something tastes amazing, you're going to want to eat more of it and enjoy it. And if it goes down really easily and the factors that positively influence satiety from looking at the MyFitnessPal data are adequate protein, fiber, and a lower energy density, so foods that fill you up. So all those things can have an effect positively. From a carbohydrate point of view, low carbohydrate will help improve satiety, and a moderate amount of fat, but not, if you separate fat from protein, it's not particularly satiating. So then if you flavor that refined fat, it's going to make you feel full. You're going to think it filled you up quickly, but the amount of calories you've actually ingested to get that satiety feeling are probably going to be a lot more than if you ate something that was actually more satiating on a calorie for calorie basis.
That's a good point. Yeah. Cause it is still possibly, that reward response that you're getting, and you're like, ooh, okay.
It's like your brain is probably more.
And you're like, I want a little bit more because I'm having a hard day and I want a little bit more. And it's not like we're having these active thoughts thinking about this. It's just, we're just eating a little bit more.
Yeah. Cause it tastes good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause it tastes good and it's entertaining and enjoyable. And I think you're talking about keto becoming corrupted a little bit. I think potentially the same thing happened with paleo. You look at paleo, I think paleo by itself, eat natural foods as they were found in nature, is a fantastic motto to live by. If you're going to eat seasonal foods, you're never going to get that combination of fat and carbs together and highly processed, hyperpalatable, highly flavored foods. You're not going to get that. But, I think paleo has gone off the boil because, it became that,
oh my gosh, bottled agave and bottled
everywhere.
Yeah, like we were paleo like in 2000 from 2011 on.
Yeah, and I love paleo for what it really is, not right.
Yeah, because it's like, check it out, paleo pancakes, paleo muffins, paleo, and it's like technically maybe paleo, and the same thing. Like you're putting agave. Well, it's natural. It's natural agave.
You're never gonna find that syrup anywhere.
You're not gonna try to extract that much agave.
Try to extract maple
from a freaking cactus to see like how much you're gonna get. We're taking these things that may be acceptable in nature, but how hard, man. We spoke about this with Colin Stuckert. Even about nuts. How hard these people work in Africa, like I don't know what country it was in Africa, to get the honey, they climb up a tree, and like how much honey are they getting from that beehive, and they're sharing.
Well, they all share the beehive, and the guy, it's actually incredible to watch. Like this man climbs up this, it is like as tall as a building, this tree, getting stung by bees the entire time just to get honey. And here's the thing, they probably do that once a year or something, and so they do gorge.
It's not nearly as ubiquitous as we have.
Not here where we have like an endless supply of honey.
We go to the store. How many bottles of honey would you like me to buy?
Right.
So, I think people are just not on.
I'm going to mix that with all my almond flour that,
Yeah, exactly.
You've got a hyperpalatable, you've got that starch plus fat combination that you go, I've got fat on these paleo foods, but they were paleo comfort foods that never ever would have occurred in nature.
Yeah.
And we had our friend Anna.
We do it on the holidays, fine.
Yeah, and then we
can't be, and then we feel like crap. Yeah, but we can't be eating that stuff every day.
Yeah, our friend Anna, she's like, she's that friend of yours who says what you want to say. And I love it because she's like, welcome. She's like, me. She's like, me. I am pursuing a ketogenic diet to take back the power I gave to my mouth. And then it's like keto, Facebook keto group. Welcome. We will show you endless recipes
and endless pictures,
pictures of sweets and things that will not let you address your hunger and addiction. And we'll pat you on the back when you eat it, and we'll say, hey, it's keto. Great job. You're killing it. I mean, it goes to this like pursuit of immediate joy all the time, which as someone who loves to eat, I'm not hating, but I'm just saying when that becomes your only pursuit, you have to readdress these things. You're not going to live the same way with a different lifestyle. You're not, you have to address the core issue.
Yeah. And we do it like we raise, we were all, this is what because people are constantly messaging me about how do I stop binging? How do I stop overeating at night? And I'm like, why are you, this is something that you've been conditioned to do. We reward children. We comfort them with food. We reward them with sweets. And this is why we seek these behaviors. It's more of a behavioral addiction problem than anything. It's
being mindful. Goes a long way. That alone.
Yeah. And you're not a dog. You don't need to be rewarded with food.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Food as a reward, and just don't have that stuff in your cupboard. And like you said, sometimes there are points where you have celebrations, you have parties, and maybe you've need a diet break because you've been going really hard. I don't know, as you guys as bodybuilders and looking shredded, to get to that point, you really need to work really hard, and sometimes you need a blowout, but then all of a sudden you feel really bad and you go, okay, now I realize why I was doing what I was doing, because now you feel the contrast and you go, okay, have that renewed motivation to keep on going. But yeah, just don't put things in your shopping trolley out of that combination of sugar, starch, refined fat, particularly vegetable oils, and artificial sweeteners. And making it at home is probably not a great idea too, especially if you're not, maybe if you're weight stable and you're happy with your weight, happy with your blood sugars, then enjoy those keto treats. But it's probably not the primary food. It's not going to be the most nutrient dense or satiating food if you're really trying to make progress and move the needle and change your habits.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now I want to ask you something that it goes back to earlier I was, strict carnivore. Now I'm carnivore sometimes I'll enjoy vegetables. And, I get sometimes people are asking me, I thought you were carnivore. And I'm just like, I don't know what to do with questions like that, and it's this dogma that we get with keto, carnivore, whatever. And for me, I'm kind of an instigator, so I kind of don't care. And so I want to ask you in an adult way, because I think it's important for people to consider the fact that maybe there may be times when keto may not be better for them and they can try. So, with your nutrient optimizer, and we want to give you a chance to talk more in depth about it, but, can you talk about some things that you may, or I'm sure since you wrote this, you might remember some of the key learnings where, a low carb approach may be better than a ketogenic approach. Where do you see that being, what type of population or what type of person, or maybe even what type of time period or season in a person's life?
Yeah, that really cool question. I suppose a lot of people are really excited about keto because, if you've got ketones in your blood, you're probably losing weight. And, if you are losing weight, then your blood ketones are elevated because you're burning body fat. People hear that and go, oh, that's really cool. I need a piece of that. But really the therapeutic original ketogenic diet of 80% fat was really generated for people with epilepsy or managing brain cancer or whatever it is that, it's a very niche thing. And most people are just looking for blood sugar control or to look better naked and to feel good about themselves. And I think from a diabetes perspective that the first priority is to reduce your blood sugars and manage those blood sugars down to normal levels. You don't need to get below 70 or whatever, and lower is not necessarily better by switching out carbs for fat with low protein. And that's probably the point where you adversely affect satiety and end up craving more because you're you've eradicated the more satiating foods and substituted for refined fat. So to avoid that, the first point of call is to go, okay, I've got high blood sugars. I need to drop my carbohydrate intake to the point that my blood sugars stabilize. They don't need to be completely flatline, but they need to stabilize and not be diabetic. But then the people got different opinions on how diabetes works and comes about. But I think the most interesting and powerful insight is the personal fat threshold that really your body fat
so good. I love that.
Is the store of is where it's meant to work as a bit of a buffer. When you eat food, it stores that energy, and when you need that, it comes back out. But it gets to the point where it gets full and it overflows into your kidneys and your pancreas and your brain and your heart and your lungs and all your vital organs where it's not meant to be. And then you get all the metabolic syndrome disease issues that are really blowing us away. It's fundamentally, I think, a problem of just having more fat than our bodies can tolerate and carry. But to reverse that, you need to find a way that you can be satiated and naturally eat less over the long term, so that your body fat can still act as a buffer. So when you eat, you don't have that overflow from your bloodstream. So really, the blood sugar you're seeing is really just an overflow from your fat stores not being able to use up all the fat that's in your diet and in your body. So that it's a complex way of looking at it, but I think it's the most true and our best understanding. So to do that, the first thing you need to do is stabilize your blood sugars. So eat less carbohydrate. But once you've got to that point and your blood sugars are still a bit more elevated than you want them to be, or you're carrying more body fat than you want, then you need to back off the dietary fat to allow your body fat to be used up, while not dropping protein too much, because protein is quite satiating. If you feel like we talked about before, it's like a fuel tank, and there's not a lot of headroom in the protein fuel tank. You fill up your protein, you get enough protein to repair your muscles, and then once you eat a little bit too much protein, your body says, no, I can't take any more protein. Can you stop? So your appetite suppressant kicks in, and that's a good thing to hit that full signal on your protein fuel tank. But if you're feeding your glucose fuel tank or your fat fuel tank or both together, you can get a lot more energy. And if you're pouring energy into both of those fuel tanks at the same time without hitting the protein full signal. So you can manipulate your diet. So at that point, you first reduce your carbohydrate, and then you might want to back off your fat until you get really nice blood sugars and you get the body composition you want, and then you can just transition to focus on nutrient density now. And that's the really exciting thing that we've been trying to build, is that systematized approach where you go, okay, here are my blood sugars, nutrient optimizer algorithm, and we've got a smart macros algorithm that helps you tweak your macros going forward, and it helps you titrate down your carbohydrate intake until your blood sugars stabilize. And then it'll then say, okay, blood sugars are stabilized. Let's now focus on your dietary fat and maybe back that a little bit down. And then once everything is tickety-boo, you can then focus more on your nutrient density. And nutrient dense foods are satiating. And then you can, it's a really exciting point.
I think you explained that so well. I'm hoping that our audience understands that, because I think you really explained it well.
Yes.
Because I can tell you, I had a consult today where someone told me, I'm a client that I'm having now that has been doing keto for a year and had, got her blood sugar down into the 4s. And then now she's, in the past several months, seen her fasted blood sugar back up, from 5 to 6. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, this is what's happening right now. This is exactly what's happening. And I can tell you that for me, this is a completely unbiased view on my part, because I can continue to be keto this whole time and I haven't experienced any issues. But at the same time, I'm also aware of these things. So I'm adjusting things on the fly. I'm fat cycling. I commented once on one of your recent posts about, I really do think it may be something as simple as cycling your fat down twice a week, where you put yourself in a big deficit twice a week and you bump up the protein on that day. You still end up being in a pretty massive deficit, like, maybe 800 to 1,000 from your rest of your week. But you go to sleep and you wake up the next day and you're like, wait, how did I just eat that much less? And I wasn't hungry. I was sated. And, then maybe over time you start to see that blood sugar come back down. Or it could be something as simple as doing it, for a while, like bringing your fat down for a while. So I think that this is something that people really need to look at. And for that reason, Maura had one more question to ask you because. So I'll ask him. What about the program, the nutrient optimizer? Just
about
kind
the
of
nutrient
to give
optimizer. Yeah, just give us like a little bit about it. I know it's very personalized, which I love that because again, we all have different backgrounds, different goals. Yeah. Some people might be coming in there with metabolic diseases. Some people are coming in there, just normal people that are healthy generally. And so how does it work and how can people find it? And
people think, I don't want to track my intake and I don't want to find another tracker, and I've used MyFitnessPal and I don't like tracking my food. It's not that, I suppose, and that's the first thing people need to understand. But it's a way of taking who you are and your current goals and your current preferences. Maybe you're someone with, a preference for carnivore and want to find those foods that will complement your carnivore diet from organ meats or seafood or even some plant-based additives, and it'll isolate those foods and say these are the things that you can eat to complement your current dietary preference. Or maybe you're someone with type 1 diabetes and you need to flatline your blood sugars, and it'll help you titrate down your carbohydrate intake. Or maybe you're, it's got a thread for people with who are looking for actually therapeutic ketosis and help them reduce their insulin load to the point that they'll achieve elevated ketones to actually achieve therapeutic ketosis. But for people who are just looking for metabolic health and blood sugar control, it'll help you guide you through that process to help you first, like we said, titrate down your carbohydrate to the point that your blood sugars are healthy and stable, and then help you focus on fat loss, and then all the time prioritizing nutrient density as much as you can. And it's those nutrient dense whole foods that tend to make you feel full, make you feel good, provide the nutrients you need to thrive in your mitochondria to do everything they need to do to give you the energy and reverse disease. It's really exciting. And we've also got a whole, it's one thing to have knowledge, but it's another thing to put that into practice and form positive habits. And we've built into it a sort of a habit tracking program that, these are the 5 things I want to tackle at the moment. And every morning I'm going to wake up and say, I did that today, or I did that yesterday. And you tick it off, and it's that repetition and then a bit of community competition with other people that they can also share that journey. You can say, my friend is a little bit ahead of me and I'm going to try and catch them. And, it's that competition and community support that's also going to be part of it, and a bit of a leaderboard. And, we're looking at in the new year starting some competitions with even cash prizes to help motivate people to lose body fat and to stabilize the blood sugars, and ideally to do both at the same time. And then going forward, we'll have other things for optimizing your nutrient density and a whole lot of different things. But we want to start there and focus on that blood sugar and weight loss together, because they're sort of intertwined, as we talked about before, with that personal fat threshold. So it's an overall program that hopefully people will be able to identify not just their macros in a sort of special way, but also the foods and the meals that they can prioritize right now to move them forward. And then it'll adapt with them going forward from there, that, as they get down the road, they don't just keep going with the same approach that may have helped them in the beginning, but in the long term, they sort of stall and don't get all the way to where they need to go.
I love it. Where can they find it?
Yeah, so the website is nutrientoptimizer.com. So they can go there and do a free report, and that'll give them a list of foods and meals and some recommended macro ranges for their current goals. And 12th of December, which isn't too far away, we're going to be launching the whole platform. And then we're going to have a series of posts, and as I mentioned, a competition come the new year to help people really encourage them on that journey and support them on that journey and show them how the whole platform works. And it's really like nothing else out there. It's really hard to explain without actually jumping on and trying it. So you can try it for 14 days for free and have a bit of a play around. And yeah, it's really, really exciting platform.
Love it, man.
That's
and
great.
I think that's awesome. That's taking out the guesswork for a lot of people. And again, like with everything else you said, I think you explained it really well. I mean, I'm biased because this is what I live, but I really do think that, that the lay person will understand a lot of the things that we spoke about today. And that's always a good thing. So I want to thank you, man, for coming on. We appreciate you, visiting us people. Like, let us know what the numbers on the lottery are, at least before we hang up
from the future
for tomorrow, so that we know that
we know
that in the future things are they're probably
things are okay.
I think things are better for sure.
It. Yeah, we're
that's
live.
how we knew we weren't going to die in 2000. That's how I knew the world wasn't gonna end in 2000 when Australia was safe. I was like,
when
you
they
guys
celebrated
are gonna go first.
Like, yeah, forget it.
Well, they'll go first. Yeah. So I was like, well, they didn't go. We're fine.
No, but thank you. Well, where can people find you online?
The Facebook group Optimizing Nutrition, which is that hive mind gladiatorial sort of environment. We've got Marty Kendall's Nutrient Optimizer. I'm on Twitter occasionally. And then there's the nutrientoptimizer.com, and Optimizing Nutrition is where I've got all the big long blog posts that have then been condensed into the whole Nutrient Optimizer platform.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much. Everybody who's listening, please make sure to share this. This is a really good episode. Please make sure to subscribe and to leave us a 5-star rating and review, because remember, this podcast is fueled by you people. And if, you continue to do that, we get more really cool guests like Marty. And so we're grateful for everyone who's done that. Basically, that's it for me. What about you, my love? You have anything else? Nope.
No.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, man.
Thank you so much.
Have an awesome rest of your day.
So cool. Absolute privilege and pleasure. Thank you.